26, went through the college admissions process 2 years after Peter did. She, too, was applying from a charmed school. In her case, Phillips Exeter Academy, which was less than a mile from her family's New Hampshire home and which she attended as a day student. She wasn't at the very top of her class, but she had as many A's as B's. At Exeter, one of the most storied prep schools in America, that was nothing to sneeze at. She was also a captain of the cross-country team and active in so many campus organizations that when graduation day rolled around, she received one of the most coveted prizes, given to a student who'd brought special distinction to the academy. Jenna had one conspicuous flaw, a score on the math portion of the SAT that was in the low 600s. Many selective colleges cared more than ever about making sure that each new freshman class had high SAT scores, because that was one of the criteria by which U.S. News & World Report ranked schools in its annual survey, the influence of which had risen exponentially since its dawn in the 1980s. In fact, the college on which Jenna set her sights, Claremont McKenna, cared so much that its dean of admissions would later be exposed for fabricating and inflating that statistic. Jenna applied early to Claremont McKenna and was turned down. She was stunned. She couldn't quite believe it. And partly because of that, she didn't sink into a funk but moved quickly to tweak her dreams and widen her net, sending applications to Georgetown University, Emory University, the University of Virginia, and Pomona College, which is one of Claremont McKenna's sister schools. She threw in a few more to have some insurance, although she was relatively certain that she wouldn't need it. In early spring, the news came. Georgetown said no. Emory said no. No from Virginia. No from Pomona. She felt like some kind of magnet for rejection. Earlier that semester, her first serious boyfriend had broken up with her. He was a sophomore at Stanford, the sort of school she was now being told she simply wasn't good enough for. What was she good enough for? What in the world was going on? Many of her Exeter classmates were bound for the Ivies in their ilk, and they didn't seem to her any more capable than she. Was it because they were legacy cases, from families with more money than hers? All she knew was that they had made the cut, and she hadn't. I felt so worthless, she told me. It was a very, very depressing time. As she remembers it, she was left essentially with two options. One was Scripps College, another of Claremont McKenna's sister schools, though not quite as desired as Pomona. The other was the University of South Carolina. It wanted her badly enough that it offered her a significant scholarship. But that wasn't enough for me, she said. I wanted a name. I wanted some prestige. That was the immediate legacy of the application process. She was determined to grab whatever bragging rights she could. But there was another, better legacy which came later. Once she got through the summer, crossed the country to Southern California, beheld how gorgeous the Scripps campus was and saw how well she fit in there, she realized not only that the most crushing chapter of her life was in the past, but that it hadn't crushed her. Not even close. Actually, it had helped her separate the approval that others did or didn't give her from what she believed, knew about herself. One day she happened to sign up for a day trip from Scripps to Tijuana, Mexico, to help do some painting and other charitable work in an especially impoverished neighborhood. When she got there, she recalled, I held a baby who could barely breathe, and the mother didn't have the money to take the baby to the doctor, and you could literally see the United States on the other side of the border. I was just blown away. The moment stayed with her, and during her sophomore year she applied for a grant that would give her the funds necessary to live in Tijuana for the summer and work with indigent children there. She got it. A pattern emerged. I applied for things fearlessly, she said, because I knew now that I was worth something even if I wasn't accepted. Rejection was arbitrary. Rejection was survivable. She entered a contest at her school to spend a weekend among the Mexican poor with Jimmy Carter, and she was chosen. She put in a request to study abroad in Senegal and then in Paris, and she was permitted to do both. After graduation, she went to work for Teach for America, and, toward the end of her time with the organization, she sought a special fellowship in school administration that was typically given only to educators with more experience. She nonetheless received it and later got a federal grant to write the 300-plus pages of the charter for a public elementary school she was proposing to start in Phoenix, where she now lives. That school, serving children from low-income families, opened in August 2014. Jenna is its co-founder and its director of students and operations. I never would have had the strength, drive, or fearlessness to take such a risk